Welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Good morning,
Good
everyone,
morning,
and welcome
Mike.
back. Good morning, Tommy.
Oh,
Nice look in the background. I see you and updated you today.
yeah. So if you're watching, you can actually see it looks a little professional. We finally changed all the monitors. I gotta give mad props to my wife, Sarah. Also, not just because she did all this, but with the pop of the plant. But today's her birthday, and I think anyone knows if you're in the fabric game, there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make. You have to learn so much and take so much time. So just a little props there. Just want to give it out to Sarah. But yeah, we got a nice little background here. We can do another 500 episodes.
Oh, I'll say nice job, Sarah. It looks really good. Tommy has leveled up, so we're happy with that one. So that's awesome. Excellent. We'll jump in today. We don't really have any news items per se. Do you have any news items you want to kind of discuss? Because this is kind of like a huge news episode in general.
Yeah, I think the news is the topic.
Okay. So for those of you who haven't been following along, Microsoft Build occurred last week. And so this is the week after Microsoft Build. A lot of announcements have been made, new features, new just direction seems like from Microsoft, or well, maybe reinforced direction, maybe not new direction on a lot of different Fabric elements, Azure elements, data agents, a lot of AI things you're seeing right now. So really just kind of unpacking that. What does that mean for us? What does this look like for us as we develop and build within Fabric and or Power BI? Where does this fit? And do we see any advantages by Microsoft kind of continue to move down this AI direction? All right. That being said, Tommy, kick us off. Let's start some of the conversation.
I don't know where to start actually with this because to your point, Mike, there's a ton of things going on that are more evolutionary, I think, with this than major new features. In case you missed, there's a ton of stuff on the blog around all the announcements. If you go to Microsoft Fabric blog, you can find a ton around all news updates. The next 2 weeks, Mike, I think we're diving into this too. So we want to dive into what Microsoft Build means for you, what it's going to mean for the future. So I think let's just kick it off with the bang, Mike, and let's just start with that main blog announcement. And I want to start with the title of the blog. Get to insights faster with software as a service databases and chat with your data.
Yeah. I'll drop that link in the description below here so people can jump in and see the article as well.
So, Mike, we talk about AI a lot, and this is how I want to start with this. You and I have been talking about AI agents. We've been talking about all the open AI stuff. We've talked about all the Copilot things. We talk about it a lot. We've talked about even like Cruiser and IDD and tools. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason for this, Mike. This is where the money is. This is where people are really investing the time. And I have some thoughts around this. But I think we're realizing this is just the age and the era we're in. So at this point, just starting off, if you haven't invested a lot of time into the AI services, not just for you to use it, and I think this is the big difference what I'm finding today. It's not just, are you using AI tools, but do you have an idea of the services you're going to provide via AI? And I think that's the shift I'm seeing here.
That's interesting. I think AI is going to become very ubiquitous with any kind of application or program. A lot of the big tech giants, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all of them are pushing some form of AI. I'm seeing all kinds of, every other day, I'm seeing a new thing on my feeds around, hey, check out this amazing new released video feature that's taking transcripts and turning them into AI-based features. I'm even starting to see I'm also starting to see even other people across the internet starting to write like blog posts, news announcements, and things using AI. And some of it's very evident, like, oh yeah, this is definitely made by AI. And there may be a lot of other stuff that's actually being generated with it, but I'm not aware of it yet, or I'm not able to detect it. So I think the line is going to continue to blur between, is there an expert behind this? The line will continue. I'll finish my thought and then I'll jump to my next thought. Yeah. The line's going to continue to blur between, is there an expert behind this, or is this just an AI generated thing that someone prompted and was able to get out some words or some language around it? So I think experts are going to be harder to discern inside the space. And you might get a number of people getting bad insights from the AI to help you write articles.
That's a big point. Did you have another point after that?
I was just thinking about other things. I was just trying to unpack, like, how do you find these tools? Like, there's so many different things. It feels like it's wild, wild west right now. There's just like Cursor, like, unless you read about it or have heard about it, you wouldn't have known about it. Maybe VS Code, you probably have seen Fabric, you've heard about Copilot. So some of the big players are there. But a lot of, I think, the value being added right now feels like there's a lot of these niche players. People kind of on the edges of things, people really pushing the boundaries of what AI can do. And I think my challenge right now is I have a hard time keeping up with all of it. I literally have a list of AI-based tools. I thought, as I started seeing a lot of these tools come across my radar, I'm like, I don't know what all these do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep track of all the ones that are coming out. And so I just made a little list. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been adding like 3 or 4 more new AI software programs, things into my list over and over again. And it's becoming it's fun to play with this stuff right now.
Yeah.
I think going back to your point, Tommy, like, where do you apply the AI? How do you add this to your app? That's going to be a bit more challenging, I think, how to place it in there correctly.
I know this is going to sound like a first world problem or silly by just by the words, but right now it's a sacrifice to keep up with all of it. And the reason why it's going so rapidly, more rapidly than anything I've seen in technology before. Claude just released Claude Sonnet 4 and Claude High 4, and then OpenAI had their major announcements. And now we have all these Copilot announcements to not just understand there was an announcement, but then to now have to change your prompting around how does it reason. It takes a lot of time. And I think the biggest thing, what I'm seeing it going through the article and all the announcements there, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm obviously want an honest opinion here, but it seems like a big theme for Microsoft with Microsoft Build for us, for the BI, the data teams, is that all of our services we're going to provide are going to be AI centered. Again, difference between us doing AI to get to the solution, but that the solutions themselves are going to be using AI. It's more or less explicitly stated, but the 4 pillars, and I think this is actually a great place to start. So they talked about there are 4 pillars around what they see the Microsoft Fabric platform being. Let's hear. I think we got it right here. Yeah. So here are the 4. Microsoft Fabric's 4 core pillars: a complete AI-powered data platform, an open AI-ready data lake, empowering AI-enabled business users, mission-critical foundation. So I'm here in real time, but 3 of those are all AI-centric. And again, not for us, so to speak, as the person building like a Claude or Cursor. It's more of for the organization to apply a tool. So we have to build that AI tool. My question to you, with all that in mind, then, is do you see yourself centering around building AI powered or AI centric solutions with Microsoft Fabric? Because that seems where Microsoft's going.
Yeah, I think it's beginning to come to a point where I think there's an expectation that AI will be in any kind of software offering moving forward. Now when I use Adobe Illustrator, or I use Adobe Express, or I'm using Canva, another program I use of heavily is Miro, right? All these programs are now getting very deeply integrated AI experiences. Where I think this is going to be meaningful is it's those first couple interactions that make a difference. So for me, I'm very interested to try it out and play with the AI, and I'll play around with click on the buttons that have the little AI icons on them. Fine. I'll try it, and if it doesn't immediately add value or will kind of wow me, like, wow, that was easier than I thought, I'm not going to use it again very often.
Sure.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time like trying to learn how that thing works to get it to be useful. So I guess where I'm at right now is, what can AI do in these simple forms, right? We're just starting this space where AI is becoming part of a platform. I think about when I post things on using Adobe Express, right? There's a little message box, and you can rewrite your message box. Hey, just type in what you want to write, and then you just say, rewrite this, or rewrite this with an energetic voice, or rewrite this with a excited tone, right? And it does a great job of just kind of jumping in and doing that thing. it's little experiences like that that are going to be expected. And then, once those become the baseline, we're going to need to start figuring out, okay, what's the next level of experiences?
Right.
Create this thing, generate these other parts. I saw Marco Russo over the weekend just touting the snot out of, like, just being super excited about, there's an MPC server for DAX formatter, I think it was.
MCP, yeah, the model context protocol that you can build that you can integrate with Claude, VS Code, or Cursor.
So someone had made this as a GitHub repo. Let's see if I can go get my hands on it. I think I favorited it. But I looked at this going, oh, wow. Like, if Marco Russo has been very resistant on a lot of the AI things, like, oh, you'll always need people. You're always going to need, individuals, smart people, individuals figuring out models. And this was the first time I think I saw him really embrace like AI based technology pieces. And I always knew that was kind of there. It's just a matter of when are we going to hit that threshold where like experts in the field start saying, this is going to change how things work. This will make things different for us.
Right. And I saw that too. You sent it to me and I was like, this is awesome. I label what the things you mentioned, the Claude, MCPs, the stuff in Adobe. I have a label for those and I call those micro AI services. The reason why is those are all for the individual. It's an individual based agent. Really kind of, I know it's globally available for everyone, but it's for me, it's my individual thing to get to a solution that may not be AI. Well, I think where Microsoft's shifting is this idea of call macro based AI services, because they want you to use your fabric data for your AI solutions, not to get to the solution, but your solution is AI. Your solution is Copilot. Your solution is talking to it in something around automation or chat with your data or a data agent or Copilot Studio, where we're building a solution that is focused around AI, which is for a broader organization and is more custom with using your data. Everything I use right now is this macro because it's Perplexity, it's Claude, it's OpenAI, it's Copilot. But that's me. That's just me building it. I can't scale that for a team. But Microsoft has this really different shift on it because all these AI solutions they're doing are not the same. It's for an organization that's going to utilize their own data, whether it's in SharePoint, the Cosmo database update that they had is not just data. And now Fabric Data Agents. We'll dive into that on these major updates where I don't know, Mike, is our job shifting now even more? Like where like to me, I believe this, but let me ask you, is our job shifting more where in 2 years we're kind of going to be expected, or people in data are expected to build AI solutions because we have the data?
I mean, I think there's a natural progression of, if you have the information, if you have the data stored in a lakehouse. I mean, this is where a lot of this begins. The preparation for AI starts with having just good collection of your data. Having a bunch of things stuck in SQL servers, having them stuck in APIs or third-party programs, that's not as useful, I think. This is what we've... And let me answer your question directly, Tommy, and I'll just kind of expand on like where I think this is going, right? So will we be building agents, right? I think if they make it easy enough for us to build these things or to create or start... I listened to a conversation between Mark Zuckerberg and Satya Nadella. And Mark asks Satya, how much of your code is being written by AI?
Yeah.
And I heard Satya say, well, yeah, we're roughly like around like 25 to 30%. And then Satya kind of expands a little bit and says, really where we're finding code value is in, Git check-ins, code reviews, writing tests. Those are a lot of the mundane things that people don't want to write. And if you can just prompt an AI to do it and it writes 30, 40 tests for you all at once, well, that saves you a lot of time. There's a huge time savings for not having to do some of those mundane things, very repetitive. And then Mark responds with, well, we're not trying to build AI to create like code. We're trying to use AI to build the AI, like having it create itself, right? So, he goes, that's where we think there's more value in this. And so, okay, let's interesting. Two really big players in this space talking about like what's happening. But what does this mean for us, right? What does this look like for us as we create? I think you could use AI in those two ways. And one way you could use it to like write the code for you. And Tommy, that's kind of what you're talking about right now, is that the AI is being used to generate the code that we need to have the DAX statements done, or we're writing the code with AI to build websites or go look at the data. I think there comes a point in time when the AI, to Mark's point, is where the AI is being used to build itself. So we'll talk to an AI and say, look, AI, I need to generate an agent that does X, Y, Z things. Come up with some general questions we should be using to get the AI. Start having the AI learn how to prompt to build itself. And I think when we get to that moment, I mean, it feels very Inception-ish. But I think that's actually going to be where things are going to land. And we're not going to need to spend a ton of time building and creating these experiences, or it's going to become like a commodity like everything else.
And that also sounds like the beginning of the Matrix too.
Maybe when the computers learn to build themselves. But I think there's active research trying to make this occur. Like there's active research trying to make this a reality. And so, I think at the end of the day, where I'm seeing AI being very effective is AI is effective in exploring these other areas that you just don't have all the extensive knowledge around. Like, let's just say you get a weird error message from something in Fabric. AI is going to really help out there, right? Because it's going to have seen all of those error messages. It'll give you suggestions on what things you may want to try to fix these problems. So I think there's going to be a lot of that kind of just incorporated. At some point, it'll just be expected and it'll just be part of the experience. Yeah. You're just going to do these things and it'll just happen. I really wonder, will AI ever really be good enough to build reports with, looks and feels and visuals and styles and things? Like, is that where this is going? Or are we going to just kind of let that be part of, the human creative side of things, need to do those things?
But again, that's us, the builder, using AI to get to a solution, right? That example that you gave. So I think, to me, I see a lot of the kind of underlying theme here around build is no. Microsoft's saying, no, you can use AI to get to your solution, but your solutions we're focusing on are going to be AI centric. We're around data agents, Copilot, and whatever else they come out on, or their own, like with user data functions. All these things are going to be something that's going to be an AI powered solution, product, or service. And we can use AI to get there, but we're building AI things, which is, I think, the difference. My mindset is kind of changing here a little, where I'm looking at, everything you're building is not, it's for me, right? But it's for me to build something that's AI powered.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think this is actually a good jumping off point to go into some of the major updates, some of the major features here too.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think let's start. Where do you want to start, man? Because we can just go chronologically on the article, or we can start with the coolest one. So where do you want to go? Where do you want to drive?
Are you talking about the powering the next AI frontier with Azure Microsoft Fabric? Is that the one you're thinking about? The next article?
Dude, we can do that one, or we can do the they're the same order. Yeah. Let's start with there. So how do you want to, okay. I'll let you take it and we'll dive from there.
Yeah. So, couple major announcements that Microsoft kind of announced at Build. Some of them were the Cosmos DB, or the NoSQL Fabric databases. That was one that was kind of majorly announced. And then other announcements around SQL Server 2025. They had some Postgres, SQL Server, SQL in VS Code. But then they started kind of really diving into like their announcements around like fabrics and developers and new tools there as well. Mm-hmm. I'm actually pretty excited about Cosmos DB and Fabric. I think it's a pretty solid database. Yeah. We use it for our applications that we build today. It's extremely high scale, very fast, but it's a non-SQL-esque type database. You can use like a graph database inside it. It has a lot of flexibility for application builds. And so I think once we saw SQL Server show up, so SQL Server was a database, and I think SQL Server as a database feels a lot like a transactional database. It feels like something you would build an app on top of. And I think coinciding with that is Cosmos DB. So having Cosmos DB also in Fabric is another one of those technology pieces. Like, yeah, this makes sense. Having Cosmos DB associated with Fabric also makes a lot of sense to me. But this also, again, feels more transactional. You build a website, you use Cosmos DB as your backend. So I think this is a really, really useful tool that Microsoft has other places. I think they're going to try to drive wider adoption of it by just landing it inside Fabric.
And I think that's the difference too. If for a lot of people where if you've just been strictly Power BI or strictly in the data world, you are probably more accustomed to your normal standard SQL database. But there are an expansion and the horizontal sphere of products around databases is very wide based on the purpose. For example, there's vector databases that are very focused and work very well with your anything AI powered or any AI generated. There are databases that can hold more than just simply your normal data types. They can hold files or media items as well. And I think we're seeing that with with the Cosmo database and Fabric, where there's an understanding here that it's not just warehouse and lakehouse and your normal ETL medallion approach that's so important here. Is, oh, we need to support Copilot or AI products, right? Like when the end goal and what's going to be the engineering behind that, right? And it's not going to be a normal SQL database or a lake house that's going to power that trillions of data or a trillion rows of data or types of data. I think that's the biggest difference we're seeing here. So this, while it may sound the most technical, I think out of all of them, if you're not aware or familiar with this, I think this is one of those where it's going to be the underrated one to kind of become an expert in, so to speak, or really get your skill and experience on, because it's going to be something I think we're just going to be having to get accustomed to using.
You make an interesting note there, Tom. You talk about the different databases. I mean, one of the things that I think SQL does is this concept of like a vector database.
Yeah.
So it's where you take a bunch of information and you allow it's more like a pre-training type thing. You vectorize the data, allow it to find relationships, what things are close to what, and so that's something that's a bit more technical in nature. I think a lot of these very technical pieces of AI are going to be distilled down to, okay, grab this data, pull it here, vectorize this information. Okay, now with that, now we can build an AI on top of it. So there's going to be some of this work I think that needs to be done to make it easier for people to digest and put AI on top of things. What I'm not sure I'm clear on right now is like, what does an AI business user based feature look like yet, and how easy does that get created? I'm not sure if I have a good grasp on that at this point. I do feel like your point, Tommy, like we're probably heading that direction where there's going to be more solutions made in AI that we will just use, but I'm not quite clear on like, okay, so how does this work? How do you make sure that's giving you the right information? What does this look like in practical terms? So I mean, I think about like the agents that we make today, data agents in Fabric, where you can ask a question of the AI, it'll go write some SQL and say, here's the data that I found, here's the SQL statement that I used to go get it, here's a graph that might represent what you think about it, right? So I think that's interesting. I'm having a hard time just bridging the gap between like traditional BI of like there's known things I need to have over and over again and this new world of AI stuff. I think AI is going to be really useful for helping us create experiences. If I could use AI to go through the visual format pane, that would be immensely helpful, because the format pane today is just atrocious. It's a really, it's just so there's too much at this point. And there's a lot of things like in DAX where you have to like do conditional formatting. Some people make some great stuff on the internet, but I look at how many clicks it takes for them to get that stuff done. I'm thinking, I don't want to do all that anymore
for a single report. And I think that you raised some really good points here. So let me try to digest this. And let's start first with we'll go from the end and go back to the beginning here. There's a lot of complex things around Power BI, and I think we're finding everything's going horizontal to me, because it used to be so vertical around what we did. We did Power BI. We had to build great reports because reports were becoming commoditized. But at the time, I think the first 7 to 8 years around Power BI, reports meant a lot to an organization. It was where you got your data, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. Where did you get your information? We just talked about this on our advanced analytics episode last week, I think. And we talked about advanced analytics, and also for a lot of people, where are they getting their information? For the majority, the last 8 years, it's been in a Power BI report. But
Yes.
we're seeing this shift where, okay, if it's not just the report, it can be a metric set. It can be through Copilot now. It can be through a Copilot agent where you can see it anywhere. It can be through a dashboard. We have the lake house. There's all these places where we can not just ingest our data, but consume it. And from a business point of view, and I'm seeing this downgrade, so to speak, of the normal standard, what you would think of the legacy Power BI report. Does it need all those bells and whistles still? I don't know, kind of thing. Like, and do we need to spend all of our time there? So, and AI can probably do a lot of that too. I think the biggest thing is we don't have any way to scale those advanced, like, report level measures. That's, to me, the biggest thing. And to your point, I think you're basically asking the question, is the amount of effort and time involved to build the fancy thing worth it? Does it have the value still? Because I got 18 other things that I got to build, and it's not a Power BI report. So that's my first thought here. Pause here. Thoughts, concerns? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the semantic model is still going to be king. It's not going to change. Right? You're going to need the model to be really good.
Sure.
But the model is not built in a way that AI. The AI doesn't. The AI doesn't do a great job of using all that. I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is where's the balance between, like, what the AI is doing and what we need to build in reports. And so I'm even seeing now, like, there's the model is so key to what you need to build in reports. It's, these are the relationships, these are the tables, this is the measures, right? That makes sense. But to your point, Tommy, going back to, like, metric sets, that's a different way of looking at how to pull data out of the model. I'm going to look at explorations. That's another way of pulling data out of the model.
A great one, actually.
To me, everything hangs off of the model. And I think maybe I'm looking at the report side of things. There's so much investment in the AI. Is this just another thing we're going to hang off of the model? So we're going to need to design our models for AI and have better descriptions. And, back to my point about, like, the discussion between Mark Zuckerberg and Satya Nadella, like, on one hand of it, let's look at Mark and go, well, what if we could use the AI to prep the semantic models for the AI that we want to be using later on? That makes sense to me. So, like, there's places here where I think the semantic model will continue to live on, but will we use a highly interactive report with lots of extra pages and buttons and how that? I'm not sure that's the world that we're going to see in the future. I think there's going to be like a permutation on that maybe you start there and jump between, like, a report page experience into, like, a chatting experience about a visual or drilling into something or exploring something. You're going to want to talk to that part of the report. And so I guess I'm at a point right now where maybe we're at a threshold where the report itself needs to be reinvented.
I love this point. I completely agree with you.
Why not have this to be more of a, there's visuals and things on a page, but then also drilling into, like, a metric set and pulling those things in. And, maybe you do need to make a couple of different visual based measures. But if I think about the entirety of the model, like, the model has those relationships, the piece that we need. Just picking out a couple columns and a couple measures, like, there needs to be, like, more of a whiteboarding approach to building reports or whiteboarding approach to building your data. And it's a mix of visuals and chatting with AI and experiences. Because I think at the end of the day, you're just trying to get your head around, like, what action should I be taking from this information I'm being given? Yeah. Right.
So for you folks at home, if you didn't listen, rewind about a minute and re-listen to what Mike said, because this is a stupid good point. I am 100% with you on this, because why spend 8 hours building the prettiest report with all the bells and whistles if data agents and Copilot Studio is going to work as intended? Right? Because I think the biggest thing to me is how do people get the right information? And that's what a report's supposed to do. I've said this before on the podcast where like right now the report has been the best way for people to consume their data. People don't want report. I'm saying for the
Well,
last so many years, right?
well, and I'd even argue like it's a combination of two things. Like, so I even think that people are even leaning on reports too heavily. I think maybe even that might be too heavy of a statement as well.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I see a lot of companies with a lot of legacy paginated reports and
Sure.
reporting that's art SSRS, and like that gets the job done, right? There's this team that's making this groomed, clean data, and then there's a whole bunch of paginated reports popping out from that. Like,
Yeah.
it's still heavily used. So the maturity of the organization, not everyone's going to go straight to a report every single time. Sometimes you just need to see the individual rows or records.
And
So,
this is my point.
but
Nobody
then,
really wants a report. They just want the information, like they want the information in it. Right now, the best way to do that has been a report.
yes, I would agree.
So yeah,
For
go
some
ahead.
things, like a really like, I guess is like a it depends kind of question, right? Sometimes you just need a really long, wide table that gives you information, but like again, I can't envision it yet. I'm not seeing
Yeah.
the full vision of what this would look like ultimately, right? At the end of the day, I'm thinking like, well, the information's in the data somewhere.
So yeah.
I have these other experiences. Why isn't there a tighter coupling between like reports, report visuals, explorations, and then there's probably going to be some kind of AI chatting thing as well. So, I should be able to chat on a single visual,
Okay.
click
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
visual, and then all the context of that visual. So, like, what data is being shown, what columns and data fields are being used. That should be like the context of what is being sent automatically to the AI or chatbot to say, let's dig about this a little bit deeper. What does this look like? How do I expand this information from, an invoice header level down to the details? What details can you find me about this? Are there any
Yeah.
anomalies that I should be looking for? And the AI is going to understand what you're trying to ask of the questions. I think there are people that have really good understanding of their business, but they can't necessarily articulate those business needs into a report. And then there's this other really weird area here where a lot of, again, this is where I think reports writing falls apart. You go get some tables, you make a semantic model, and there's another data source. There's extra data that needs to be added to it. And I don't know the join, or we don't have the business logic written out to complete the join of this net new data to actually make the report more actionable or powerful. So does AI help you out there? Like, I don't know yet. That's kind of the space where I'm thinking this is going to go.
So let's further murky the waters here, Mike. And I think this is what a great transition here because we're going to further gray your role in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The major update to me, I think we'll call it I think first on the podium in terms of updates is empower everyone to ask questions about their data in Power BI and Microsoft Copilot Studio. I'm going to start this off saying, woo, because the last 2 years, I have spent a ton of time around the AI space prompting Copilot Studio, thinking that this would happen, hoping this would happen. Because I'm like, I just saw that Venn diagram and it's like, okay, good. The gist of it is twofold. One, we now have this ability, or in the next few weeks, where rather than Copilot being on the side of a single report, because right now we've only been limited to chat with your data about a report or chat with this report.
Sure.
This is complete now blowing up, and this goes perfectly what we just talked about. It's like we planned this stuff. But the biggest thing here is we have a full screen Copilot standalone experience in Power BI. So, which is again, it's available in other services, but now for the first time in Power BI, we can actually go through and chat with your data with anything you have access to with the permissions applied through OneLake. This is completely different than anything that we've been able to do. So the experience simply works that there's a Copilot button on the left-hand pane, and you just want to say, what are my sales? You don't have to go to the report. You don't have to go to the app. You don't have to go to the workspace. And it should intelligently retrieve the most relevant data to you. That's number one. Number two is the one that, again, for me, where I'm like, good, I have not wasted the last 2 years of my life, is connect Fabric data agents to Microsoft Copilot Studio. I've been pounding the desk, Mike, about this. We've both been.
Yeah.
We've been pounding the desk that this has to happen. How do we have all these the Copilot Studio, and not your most important data? And basically, now we actually have this connection. The way it works is you create a data agent. which are all created in Microsoft Fabric, and that data is connected to one lake. To your point, not a smecting bottle, but in one lake. And now you can add that to an agent in Copilot Studio. It can work with automation, like sending emails or triggering workflows. Everything that you can do in Copilot Studio can connect to your data in a data agent. So that there's a lot to digest here. Let's start here with the chat with your data in Copilot. We're probably going to devote a whole episode to this, but to your point, let's just kind of put that bridge. We just talked about semantic models and reports. Where are they in terms of the importance? Because where data lives. Well, now we have Copilot Studio as standalone.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave the floor to you here. Your thoughts, my friend.
Again, I think we're just getting closer to where this is going to be useful. Again, the proof will be in the pudding here. I feel like a lot of these initial attempts are good initial attempts, but is it really the final product we're going to wind out with? I'm not sure anymore. Like, so,
Ooh. Okay.
I mean, Copilot Studio is interesting, but does it create that wow factor? Does it actually solve problems that I'm really having issues dealing with? Or does it just create another data explorer? Does it create another experience where I'm talking in full screen to a Copilot and the value of the results that it's returning is just not immense? So I'm gonna have to play with it more before I give like a firm opinion on it. I think a bit more here. But what I will say though is most of the past chat with your data experiences have just been meh for me.
Poor. They've been poor. They've
take
tried
it or leave it.
Okay, let's go through them all actually. So the previous past, this is a good point. This is important because this is what I've been thinking too. The chat with your data experience, we've seen iterations and versions or this evolved in different products in Power BI. We had automated insights. We had the Q&A feature, which was really, I think, the first iteration of anything AI based that was talking with your data. Oh no, the first one was in a dashboard. The Q&A in a dashboard.
Q&A.
So Q&A in a dashboard.
Ask a question, get an answer about some information. It tries to rent, like, so it was trying to give you like a visual that returned back from your information. So somewhat useful. I mean, like using AI to help you build a visual or two and pin it. Like, okay, interesting. Kind of neat, but you have to spend a lot. Like the learning curve for me was just so strong. Like you had to really know your semantic model. You had to really know like how to word the phrase so that the AI could detect it and pick it up and like, okay, you're actually using the right language so you had to know your semantic model really well. You had to know what columns and measures existed in order to get the visual to work well. So like, okay, but like, at this point I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, why don't I just go do it myself and I'll just know which field to drag over. Yeah, and it doesn't style it. You couldn't change the style. Make this part. Remove the legend. There was no kind of like continually chat over and over again on top of that. That's the kind of stuff that I'm like, nah, not so useful.
We had, which is still available, by the way, Mike. I don't know if you know this. You still have the ability in the service to choose the ellipses and choose get insights on your data. And how powerful is that? Oh, wow. Day number of year correlates 0.1 or 1 with date. Wow, didn't know that kind of thing. The more the day number of year grows, it also correlates with my day.
Your cumulative sum of sales throughout the year gets larger every month. So we know like, but
not helpful.
But it's those kind of things. It's like it's one or two of those kind of things. You're like, meh. Like I need to see that 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, I'm turned off. Like I don't like this. I'm not going to try it again. Like it doesn't add value immediately. It's not telling me anything I didn't already know. That's like not useful. I'm not going to use it.
Then we have the Q&A button, key influencers, and then automated insights. But all of these have not, in so many words, taken the industry by storm. It has not swept us off our feet or become an imperative part. None of these, and I think the big point you said, the beginning thing we were talking about, any product of AI, really any technology, but I think especially AI, if it doesn't do what's intended for the first 2 or 3 times, most people are not going to go back to it. So I think that's how is this going to work? The Copilot chat with your data, which is the one we can't control. The Copilot Studio, I can really do a lot with that. But the chat with your data, if I say, what are my sales? And I get a random report, I'm not going to trust it. I need it to be 98% give me exactly what I'm the intentions there. And I think that's the big thing here with the chat with your data. The idea is right on point, right? The where they're pushing should be there. But I think we've been, in a sense, I think let down in the past. It has not met our expectations where I sincerely hope that the chat with your data experience, they give the engineers and us, the people building Fabric, the ability to really model and customize this. I cannot have this as simply something Microsoft manages and you hope for the best. It's not going to be used. It's not going to be used at all.
So this is another one. So let's keep going. So a lot of these AI things, like one of the things that now shows up in Power BI Desktop in the May edition is now prep your data for AI.
Oh, that's another one. Yep. Yeah.
So like there's now another experience. And I think this is one where they're trying to address some of these other issues of like, yeah, we don't need you to have date fields in here and, you know, simplifying the semantic model. There's too many things in the model, like large models, lots of tables, like that might not be the best place to have everything you need. And you're overly complicating the semantic model if it's got a lot of snowflaking and other tables and multiple facts. So this will be another experience that'll be interesting to see what this rolls out to. Is it going to actually make it easier for me? Or is it going to add a whole bunch of other work in a different area that I'm just not interested in? Like the AI, the Ask Q&A, you could do a lot of work to make that a good experience.
Yes.
This is another same thing here where I could be spending a lot of time producing value from the data by making the effort to build information into the model that makes it useful to the AI. But it takes a lot of time to do that. So it's going to be a balance of like, does that make sense for me to spend all this effort and time to go talk, build, create things inside the AI that we're then going to use inside the semantic model? Like that, I'm not sure if we're there yet. I got to play with it more. And I'm not sure if it's too new for me to really feel good about it yet.
And yeah, I think all of you, that experience too, I'm excited to try it out and dive into it. But man, you just had just a really powerful point around all the things that we're seeing now. It's great to see new features and it's great to see new innovations here. But like if you use ChatGPT and 5 out of 10 times you're like, what kind of answer is that? You may not use it all the time or depend on it. And I think where we need to get and where I think Microsoft's trying to get here is all these services have to be not just neat or cool where the idea is there, but they have to be, they want us to be dependent on them. And I think that's where we have to get to. Mike, anything else you want to talk about data agents and Copilot Studio? Or do you want to go to some of the other updates?
We can move on to some other stuff. I think we can skim through a couple of things. We're getting close on time here, so might as well keep skimming through.
So, all right, so let's go through a bunch of things with one lake. Now we're getting more into the builder side of things where we're focusing more just Fabric centric. No, so not as much with our AI and Copilot shortcut transformations. This one,
Did
only
you skip over?
point. Oh,
Did you skip down a couple of features? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, I'm going down.
Okay.
So this is actually on the Get Insights. This is on the Fabric blog. They have a few more bullet points.
Sure.
And this one is a single bullet point, but I think it needs to be expanded. I want to hear more about this. So there's this new concept, new feature in shortcuts called transformations. Lets you automatically transform the data as you bring it into one lake or move it between one lake data items. So the transformations simply let us virtualize our data in one lake while converting the data format into data lake or applying AI power transformations as a summarization, translation, or document classification. So basically, this ability is not just, in a sense, the shortcut feature, but allows us to, while we're moving it, or in a sense, adding the shortcut, we can do transformations to it, prep it, automatically making it into the Delta Lake format. This is underrated. I want to hear more about this. This is really cool.
I mean, I see the feature for shortcut transformations. This is something I haven't really heard a lot about from Microsoft yet. Maybe what they're doing is they're kind of using this shortcut transformations and materialized lake views, or materialized views. I think materialized views are going to be something that's going to be super impactful. And we've heard about this before. I think at FabCon is when they started announcing materialized view things. That's where I first heard about it. And I think they're going to maybe doubling down on this and doing additional features around this materialized lake view. I think this is going to fundamentally change how we build and use data inside the lakehouse, right? One thing that I think is very important for us to get right in this space is when you build a lakehouse, there's going to be lots of schemas, there's going to be lots of tables. And so we need really a very clean way of showing how the data is moving through that lake, through which tables, which columns. There's a lineage thing that's going on here. There's a lot of information that can be had or built inside the SQL statements that you use to manipulate these tables from bronze through gold. So I just think that's something we need to be more efficient with. It's going to make my life a lot easier when I can start describing very cleanly. Here are the tables. Here's the bronze through gold patterns. Here's a lineage view. I can see all the tables and how they relate. And kicking jobs off that just let the lakehouse refresh itself is going to be extremely important. So I'm very much, I think this is going to be a really strong feature. But right now, I don't really understand what shortcut transformations are. That's a very unknown feature at this point. Maybe that's just a thought. I haven't seen any demos or haven't really seen anything specifically around that. But lakehouse materialized views, that one I have seen, and I really like that feature. So if it's anything like that, then I'm going to like it.
Cool. Oh, wonderful. So I'm going to just run through here, kind of flash some of the updates and a lot of things that have preview. Mike, we could cut some off the complete it or kill it list, which I think we're due for another one. The GA of native execution engine, the GA of open mirroring, the GA of copy job, the GA of CI/CD support for data flows Gen 2. Can't ever have to complain about that again. The GA of the command line interface. Some of the preview features that have now come out, something new. Warehouse snapshots, real-time endpoints for machine learning models, and the mirroring of SQL Server on-premise and 2025 is also the preview. So any one of those you want to touch on?
I mean, I'll guess I have to give some language to the CI/CD support for data flows Gen 2. That's something we've been complaining about this one for a long time.
Yep.
It feels like this is taking way longer than needed to get this feature out the door. I think when we were in Build or Fabric conference last year, Microsoft or Arun was committing like, hey, we're going to have or actually Arun, it was Amir. I think Amir was committing to like within 6 months, we're going to have all the major Fabric experiences covered by this CI/CD thing. And here we are like a full year and a half later and now just finishing out data flows Gen 2. So I definitely think that's a very welcome feature. I don't use a ton of data flows Gen 2. I've really removed that experience and moved much more towards notebooks because it was supported in CI/CD a lot earlier, a lot more flexible for using code things. But again, I'm more of a pro user than a beginner user. So I think this support will be very useful for individuals. The only other one I would maybe think is a hidden feature here is open mirroring. I think open mirroring is probably underrated a little bit. That seems like a really useful experience. I've seen people do some really creative things with like open mirroring an Excel document, mirroring, kind of random data sources. So I think that's an underrated experience that needs to be explored a bit more. I'm happy that one's going in general availability. One other comment I'll make here around the native execution engine. I've been exploring this one, turning it on in my notebooks and in my environments. I wish the native execution engine was a little more visible, easier to turn on in a notebook. So, or even at the environment level, right? So you go to a workspace, you have default settings in a workspace. There's no button to say use the native execution engine. And when you listen about the native execution engine, the experience is saying like 3-4 times faster than without it. It's doing a lot of accelerating of the Spark engine. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like use the same notebooks, get this immensely faster execution engine available to you. Yeah, why wouldn't you use it? You should just turn it on and see if it works. So I think having a setting at the workspace level or even at the notebook level that you could just turn it on and run the notebook and see what the performance is would be very helpful. So I think Microsoft is going to try to unbury that feature a little bit more because right now it's kind of deeply, you have to create an environment. You have to like turn the feature on and then you have to save the environment back to the workspace. And then when you use your notebooks, then you can use the environment. So I think unburying that feature a bit will be a little more useful to us. Those are the kind of initial reactions I have.
I like that too. And I think the big thing too is almost too little too late with the CI/CD support with data flows gen 2. Happy to see it. I like the command line interface, like I said, but also there's a lot of tools for AI to help you around there. Mike, I'm going to kind of give my closing thought or closing discussion here. And
Mhm.
I think all these underlying themes here, I feel the sense of the questions I'm asking myself after build, or myself, but really like if you're a data analyst, right? In the day and age right now, after what Microsoft Build's real focus was, what's my, not so much what's my role, but I think the waters are very murky for what the experience and the expectation are for a data analyst is going to be in the next 2 years. Am I building reports? Am I building AI powered solutions where am I using AI for everything, or am I building things that use AI? Am I still focused on data engineering only? Right. So where are the skills? We lived in a world for the last 10 years, and we're going to continue to live in it, where we do more than just one thing. I've never just built a report. I've never been a report builder. I've been the semantic model, and I've, a data analyst and diving into the numbers. That's not changing. The only thing that's changing is there are more things to choose from, that, so to speak, that buffet or a la carte of what experiences or what expertise you need. So I think right now, if you were to say what are the roles in Fabric, in terms of not just a data engineer, data scientist, but like what solutions are you providing? What's the end projects that you're providing? I think the waters are very murky right there, and I want to get your thoughts there. But I think that's where we really need to see some clarity, and that's where I really want to see some clarity.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably lean on the idea that the semantic model is going to continue. So everything I see that makes value to the AI reporting, pagination reports, whatever you're building, I think I want to keep leaning on the idea that the semantic model is the thing that we need to continue to be really good at. Um, so if you think about AI agents directly talking to the lakehouse, interesting, very cool. But how does the AI know which relationships to apply?
Right.
How does the AI know
Yeah.
which columns are going to relate to which things, right? How does the AI understand what's a fact in a dimension table, right? So these are the kind of things that you like the designers of the experience need to inject into the AI to give some context here. So again, back to my example of there's now a new button in desktop called Prep Data for AI. One of the last options is add AI instructions, and it gives you some help, right? Add instructions for the Copilot, such as for revenue related questions, use the sales performance table, right? That's the kind of thing you're going to need to give the AI
Yeah.
some context to, right? Um, you know, what does EBITDA stand for? That's an acronym that's there. Well, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. We don't necessarily assume that the AI models are going to understand
Right.
finance lingo, but you provide some of that language to it, and so that's like information that is used when you're leveraging the AI to use a semantic model. So I think what's going to happen here is you're just going to see more and more of the um, tooling improve for us to make better semantic models that can be used in conjunction with the AI.
Right.
One other area that I don't think it was really announced. So um, there's maybe let me give my two final
Sure.
thoughts here. Maybe my first final thought is, where does AI fit inside of the Fabric or Power BI ecosystem? I don't see a lot of AI coming into the Power BI ecosystem. It's all based on Fabric. So I think one of the major decision points, and this is actually maybe a complaint and or feedback item that Microsoft is going to have, and I think you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to rationalize more and more of the experiences that are going to be newer, fun, AI driven are going to come out of the Fabric ecosystem. I think what Microsoft is doing here is they're really shifting the billing model to go away from a per user licensing method to more of a consumption based method. And so in doing that, you're going to need to go push more towards the Fabric space. All the new features are coming out of Fabric. All the AI features are coming out of Fabric. And this is going to drive more companies to move that direction. I believe at the top of the article, it talks about how many corporate companies are now using Fabric in there. And I think I saw at the very summary here is, I'm just going to try and skim the article. I think they said like 70%. Maybe that's not what I saw, but 70% of the Fortune 500 companies are now using some form of Fabric. And these are not small companies. So Fortune 500 companies aren't a small group of companies. It's pretty large. I don't know if you can find that there.
Yeah, more than 70%. Over 21,000 customers, including more than 70% of Fortune 500. Wow.
There you go. So we're hitting a threshold now where a lot of large organizations are saying maybe this is something we should be thinking about, when we should start dabbling in it. And so they may not be, I'm not going to assume every single Fortune 100 or 500 company has like full-blown fabric, lots of large SKUs. Like there may be just people dabbling in it. Like it could be just like a smaller SKU or a trial SKU.
Something.
But when I look at that number, I'm going, okay, there's something enough. That's the direction where a lot of organizations are going to be moving towards, is that fabric SKU space of things. So all that being said, that was kind of like my first point. There's going to be more fabric, whether you like it or love it. It's going to be there. My second point, I think, is really around just the importance of the semantic model. I still think it's just going to be so pivotal to have a good semantic model, good definitions, and you're going to use AI to help you build a better semantic model. But that will have to be, that's going to be continually the entry point for a lot of other tooling or experiences that you're going to see being built on top of visuals and things. I'd like to start seeing some more innovation in how we think about building data experiences. I don't know how this looks yet. I mean, I really do think like there's this idea of like, you know, I should be able to take my semantic model and throw it at an AI and say, here's the tables that are interesting to me. Build me a report that has that uses the oh shoot, I'm forgetting the standard, IBCS standard, right? Build me, here's a chart that I've made. Make this an IBCS chart. And it should be able to go find the information, determine what it is, and then rebuild the chart with this proper styling and all the things that you want. I think I want the AI to give me like more selections. Like, why can't the AI build me like 7 different versions of a chart and let me pick the one that I want?
Yeah.
I've been saying this for years now, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm gonna have to just stink and go build the solution to make it a thing, so I can just have it become part of like my report building experiences. So
sounds like a vibe coding solution there.
It should be. It totally should be. And so I haven't seen it appear yet, I'm just going to just go make the solution myself and have it become part of the product somewhere. But I think the more I look at this, all the experiences I'm seeing, everyone's going to hang their information off of the semantic model, and I think you're going to lose a little bit of richness of the context of tables and descriptions and things by going directly to the lakehouse tables. So yes, you're going to use it, but really the main value will be is throw AI at the semantic models and get that to help you build out insights and reports and things that you need there.
Still the beating heart.
It's still the beating heart. Right, and I had to imagine stepping back from this one. I mean, I look at other people in the industry and see what they were doing. SQL BI is in this space forever, and they're really good at knowing what to put their time and money towards to actually add value. And so the fact that Marco has made his team an expert in the semantic model layer and done a lot of work there, it's so pivotal. There's not too many data engines that are out there that can return results as fast as you can through a semantic model. And I think that's really the strength of that semantic model capabilities. Like we're going to need to continue using that over and over again for all of our other experiences. All right.
I love it.
Lots of things to unpack from build. We're going to have to keep kind of unwinding this. And then as we spend time exploring these features or playing with them or, building our own agents, Tommy and I will kind of share back with you on the podcast, our experiences around that, which ones are actually adding value, which ones are easy to use, which ones are difficult to use. And we'll provide our feedback here as well. With that being said, thank you so much for listening to us for an hour of your time. We appreciate your ears. We know you could be doing a million other things. At some point, maybe you'll just throw our podcast into the AI and it will just summarize this in 15 minutes or less.
At all. Yeah.
You don't have to listen at all. Maybe that's where we're going. But thank you for spending the time with us. We do appreciate it. I hope you found some value with unpacking some of these features that came out of the Microsoft Build announcements. It's a very exciting world. It's changing very quickly, and there seems to be a lot of investment in AI. So we'll have to see where this goes over the next couple months and years. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or a topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to powerbi.tips/podcast, leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all of powerbi.tips social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.